Georgian. Back in December 2010, in a remote part of Tunisia, the self-immolation of a fed-up street vendor sparked the Arab Spring. Today, the city of Sidi Bouzid's back in the news, only this time it's because Salafist radicals ransacked the only hotel bar in town that serves alcohol. It's the latest incident since the Islamist party Ennahda won constituent assembly elections. More radical Islamists have occupied universities, trashed arts events, and even beat a vacationing French local lawmaker whose wife and kids were dressed for the beach. The secular opposition feels the government's been harder on them than on the radicals, with charges pressed against journalists and artists. The respected former chair of a post-revolution constitutional panel, Iyad Ben Ashur, has even warned of a, quote, risk of dictatorship worse than Ben Ali's. Has Tunisia's fledgling democracy taken a wrong turn even before it's finished drawing up a new constitution? And what attitude should the West take in countries like Tunisia? Today, in the France 24 debate, we're asking if democracy is in danger in Tunisia. And joining us by Skype from Tunis, she's the author of A Tunisian Girl, a blog read the world over, teacher and activist Lina Ben-Meni. Welcome back to the debate. Also with us, Adnan Ben Youssef of the opposition Al-Jumhuri Party. Thank you for being with us. Legal scholar Sylvie Jacot-Barrot of the University of Paris Sud, Paris South, I guess you would say. You study civil liberties in Tunisia. Thank you for being with us. And from Cairo, Financial Times correspondent Borzu Daragahi. Welcome back, sir. And thanks to everyone for weighing in on the conversation on the France 24 Debate Facebook page and on Twitter, where you can find us at François F24. Earlier, the France 24 observers were able to reach the owner of that ransacked hotel in Sidi Bouzid, Jamil Horshani, who's received death threats, told us he can no longer count on the police and is seriously thinking of hiring private security there. Adnan Ben Youssef, being a Tunisian abroad, when you hear that going on inside what is such an important symbol for the not just Tunisia but the whole Arab world, what's your reaction?
I'm angry. I'm afraid also a little bit because the risk of clear conflict, but also I think that is natural in that case that this happen and such riots, such demonstrations, such not known groups like Salafis who act. It's not natural. It's not good. But I think that this is a little bit frightening, but it's normal.
All right, a little bit frightening, a little bit part of the growing pains, I suppose, of a new democracy. Missing from this panel, and we tried to reach them, they didn't have an English speaker for us, is, of course, the Ennahda party. Lina Ben-Meni, the incident of Monday evening in Sidi Bouzid, how frequent have you seen these kinds of things recently? All right, we seem to be having technical difficulties reaching Tunis. Borzu Daragahi, when you hear a respected scholar like Iyad Ben Ashur say there's a risk of a dictatorship worse than Ben Ali's, your reaction to that statement?
I think it's very worrying what's happening there, and the dynamic that is being set in motion. Right now is a very critical moment in Tunisia's history. I think that there are forces, opposing forces within the Ennahda party itself. They're not sure what to do. They're political novices. They're being pulled in multiple directions. And there is this temptation to allow these Salafists to run wild, really, on the streets of Sidi Bouzid and other cities in an attempt to neutralize their political opponents. This is a temptation, a very dangerous temptation, that needs to be addressed and focused on at this very critical, tense moment.
You say conflicting forces within Ennahda, but even though Ennahda is in the majority, those that are radical are in the minority in Tunisia. Why are they getting away with it?
You know, it's always been this way throughout history when these radical movements take hold and start rampaging in this kind of way. They're probably in the service of more larger political forces. Some people say that these Salafists are pursuing the agenda of certain Arabian Peninsula political interests in terms of transforming the society. But it's always the organized, determined minority that can shape a country, especially if they're willing to break the law and to trample on other people's rights with impunity, and they're not stopped by the authorities.
All right, we'll get back to that point in a minute. I just want to set the frame a bit for some of our viewers. Tunisia, the only Arab country where equal rights for women is enshrined in the constitution. Last month, the government suggesting reviewing that statement to say women are complementary to men. That sparked fury with demonstrations in several cities. You can see some of those images there from last month. Sylvie Jacot-Barrot, the government then pulled back on after there were that outcry over wanting to change that and sort of put it on the shelf for the time being.
Yeah, that's exactly the way they react all the time. I think it's important to understand that it's a situation of crisis. Some people expected, hoped that after the 14th of January things would go smoothly, but that was absolutely impossible. A revolution has ons and offs, problems, difficulties. The government at the present moment is facing a lot of difficulties. There are very strong social expectations, I'd say demands, especially from the poor areas of Tunisia, which have been forgotten for decades and are very poor. A number of issues which were critical have been set aside, have not met a solution yet, such as transitional justice, the organization of the next elections, which were supposed to take place 1 year after the previous ones.
That's right, so October 23rd is supposed to be, after that there's a power vacuum, no?
That's a deadline which will not be met, obviously. The Constituent Assembly...
So what's going to happen?
No one knows. Some people think that the government and the Constituent Assembly will be illegitimate because the deadline was 1 year. So some people say that Ennahda and what they call the Troika, that's the three parties supposedly in power, Ennahda and
two of its coalition allies.
Two coalized parties should give up power because they have normally had it for only 1 year. Others say they will go on. The constituent work is very late. A lot of things should have been done and have not been done. So it's a situation of crisis, not only, in terms of public order, but it's a constitutional, political, general crisis.
All right, so as you were saying at the outset, this ties into it. Learning democracy is proving difficult. Everything's running late. There'll be elections at the earliest in March, but some even say later than that. So pragmatically, realistically, what should happen after that October 23rd expiration date?
No one knows, but...
What would you like to see?
I think that the problem and the real risk of this transition is that those who are leading the country right now do not want to seek or to search for consensus with the other political party, with the civil society, and even with organizations like the trade union organization and else. So I think that is the main risk, and what is going on after the date of the 23rd of October is depending on the real commitment to find a big consensus for the transition. And if there is no big consensus for transition, that is the only thing that must make us afraid, worry about what happened in Tunisia. Actually, even those events, what's happening in Sidi Bouzid and many other events are linked to that aspect, are linked to the fact that...
To that looming deadline.
Exactly. Are linked to the fact there is no clear and big consensus between all the political party, all the forces to deal with this transition and to make it to the right wing.
All right, the Skype gods were not with us the first time around, but I think we have Lina Benmeni now on the line from Tunis. Lina, apologies for that. What would you like to see happen in that sort of no man's land that we're approaching, which is the period between October, when the mandate of the Constituent Assembly expires, and March, when elections are expected to be held?
Well, actually, I'm worried about what's going to happen in Tunisia. I'm more worried of having a bloodbath in Tunisia, because the situation is not clear at all. Until now, we don't have the exact date for the elections. They didn't finish the drafting of the constitution. Tunisians started to call for demonstrations starting from October the 23rd because people who are in the Constituent Assembly were supposed to be there for just 1 year. Until now, and until now, they didn't draft the constitution. The date of October the 23rd is too near, and we can't see that they have finished drafting the constitution. When we look at the situation now in Tunisia, there are problems everywhere.
But Lina, let me ask you this question, Lina. On your blog, there's quite a lot of bitterness over what's going on right now. You weren't expecting things to go perfectly smoothly when Ben Ali was overthrown.
Well, it's true that we cannot change things in a very short period, but until now we don't see a real programs or a real willingness to change things. Instead of dealing with the problems that pushed people to take to the streets to oust Ben Ali, we see that this transitional government is just starting useless debates about religion, about identity. I don't think that Tunisians took to the streets to discuss this. People took to the streets to denounce corruption, to ask for jobs, to ask for a better life, to ask for dignity. These are our real problems. But now when we look at the situation, we see that there are more and more problems. There is shortage in water, shortage in electricity. Life is more and more expensive. We see that even the wounded of the revolution are either dying or are trying to commit suicide because they didn't had the appropriate care. The situation is really hideous. It's horrible. Yeah, and I don't see a political willingness to change things.
Is it worse now than under Ben Ali?
Well, when it comes to the shortage in water and electricity, yes, the situation is worse. I'm not saying that that I wish to see Ben Ali here again. No, I'm happy that Ben Ali is gone. We don't need another Ben Ali. We don't need another dictatorship. But when we see the oppression of this new government, I'm really worried. When we see all of these attacks on personal freedom, on freedom of speech, on freedom of press, I'm really worrying.
All right, and we can talk about those attacks on the freedom of speech. The head of Entunsia TV behind bars, charged with, quote, illegal use of Tunisian state television resources during Ben Ali's rule. Sami Ferry, however, believes it's more a case of sense of humor failure over Tunisia's equivalent of the satirical puppet show Splitting Image.
بالنهضة أحسن لك صدقني يا معارض ويا جماعة عنقني يا سيد النهضة وابعد خلي تواصلها سيد النهضة راك صفر فاصلة.
And in this case, his defense finding justice unusually swift.
In 20 years of experience as a lawyer, honestly, I've never seen a hearing scheduled in 24 hours with a verdict declared the next day. The legal process should normally take from 2 to 3 months, or at least a few weeks. But this wasn't the case.
All right, and journalists feeling the heat, as France 24's correspondent in Tunis, David Thompson, reports.
Taking their protest to the halls of the Tunisian assembly. These journalists expressed their frustration with the government's nomination of a former police chief as the director of the state-run media group, Das Saba. They accused the government of trying to control the media.
The problem is that the government wants to get their hands in the media. We all understand it's a conspiracy. After Dar Saba, they're going to begin taking control of all Tunisian media.
A tense meeting follows between striking journalists and the vice president of the Tunisian assembly. She repeats the government's goal of cleaning the media of former supporters of the regime.
The word clean is a bit strong, but we need to shed light on corrupted people in this sector.
Like the journalists, some in the Tunisian opposition are also worried about a consolidation of power in the hands of the Islamist-led government.
If this concentration of power continues, there will be good reason to be worried about the future of the country. We're facing a situation where some are trying to install a dictatorship.
The new Tunisian government has replaced almost all the directors in the public media sector. Tensions between journalists and the government are expected to intensify ahead of upcoming elections.
And Human Rights Watch on Monday putting out a communique denouncing curbs on freedom of the press in Tunisia. Were you expecting this, Sylvie Jacot?
Yes, I think so. It's like for the problem of women you were talking about a moment ago. Ennahda presses forth a number of ideas and waits for the reaction. And if the civil society reacts strongly, then they withdraw. And then they come back again, as they did with the insertion of the Sharia in the Constitution. And we have permanently, daily, problems like this with the artists. So artists have been indicted and they might even go to jail for 5 years just for producing artistic stuff in La Marsa. So all the people who look carefully at the problems of civil rights and human rights are worried.
Are very worried. We're going to come back and pick up on that point. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.